This is Castle, if Castle does, and I have some RPG Maker going over the questing system and what I am currently dealing with at this point of development in my little Zelda clone RPG game. Alright, so the first thing I wanted to go over is the different ways I can go about the events that happen in the world and compare them to how things are done in Skyrim, which I thought that was a pretty interesting correlation. See, I have this old man here gives me my sword from the treasure chest that's sitting right there. So what I have is a event story that is set to auto run, and as soon as it goes, it's dangerous out there, take these with you. And he's talking about the treasure chest. So I have one of two different ways I can go about doing this. Now in the case of a large overarching story, I might want to go with a different method. So the first method is the easy method, is the simple, this is a one-shot event that will never happen again. And that is a Boolean, which is a true or false statement, or a true or false variable. And all I do is I set up a, where is it? Additional branch. I know it's in here somewhere, I'm just not seeing it. And if it's off, then take these things right here and I just put them there. Boom. So this goes, if this variable is off, then play this dialogue and have it. And now that it's true, the next time I walk in here, nothing will happen because else is set to nothing, right? So this is just like a one-time thing that just happens once, which is pretty close to exactly what happened in Zelda. However, if you want to compare this to a RPG that's a little bit more advanced, say like Final Fantasy, where this is something that is like a really long string of different types of events. And I might take you to something a little bit more like this. This is Skyrim's construction set, and this is how its scripting system works. And it's interesting to me that this is sort of just an interesting correlation that, I mean, obviously, it's just something that's obviously survived for a really long period of time, and I can almost wonder how many RPGs I've played in the past that uses just basically an integer to determine what stage your quest is currently in. So these integers are set. This is the main story right here. This is a quest. This is a quest called Unbound, and I believe it's part of the main story. And I might be wrong, but see how it says set stage here? These little snippets of code. Well, upon whatever goes on in this area right here, similar to whatever goes on here, I'm setting a variable to match something. So if you have a really long quest and I want this old guy to, ask me to bring him 10 rat tails or something, or slime molds or whatever from killing slimes, maybe this quest could actually end up being longer and he can give me like a better and better sword as I go. But a simple Boolean would be wasteful because I would end up with having all these different things. Like old man item give is a one-shot thing. However, old man quest is a variable that I can set. I can do all different kinds of commands with it. I can control this variable. I can add to it. I can set it to a certain value. I can run math, all kinds of stuff. It's exactly the same thing that Skyrim uses in its questing. And so like if I do something really good at an early stage, it could just set the stage all the way up, pow, boom. So let's say in this case that there's a few different ways to start this quest or whatever, and maybe at some point you need to keep track of it. ultimately, once the quest is started, you end up at 10, right? And this is where all that, and it just jumps right to that. So one of the actions that's typically done when you're using an integer as a way to keep track of like everything, you count up in multiples of 10. So you go, so the first part of the quest is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That way, and you can see this was taken advantage of, because if 5 things, if you end up doing a whole bunch of different things that you later on want to keep track of, oh shit, the player can do it this way, you're not out of numbers. You have a little granularity between 10 and 20. You can keep track of like little minuscule things that the player does, and it can add a little bit more depth to your quest. The exact same philosophy here works here as well. So as soon as I start Old Man Quest, I'm at 0, but then I can go variable Old Man Quest. If Old Man Quest is 0, it starts at this point. Now I'm going to set it to 10. So it's interesting to think about this in that term. RPG Maker still does that sort of same thing, although obviously, I'm not trying to make a statement about anything. The rest of this, there's way more depth going on here. Obviously, there's a whole lot of other stuff. However, Ruby script is also just as powerful. Well, it can be in the right hands. Probably about as powerful as the C++ scripting that Skyrim has as well. I say that with a big sigh, but it's somewhat true. Not to say that a world of Skyrim is nearly RPG Maker can do anything with the amount of depth of Skyrim. It's just there's no contest. I just thought it was an interesting correlation. The questing system in Skyrim versus the questing system in RPG Maker. Okay, so anyway, next. Okay, so I'll try to be brief about this part. There's 2 major super annoying things about RPG Maker. If you ever want to just mess with this, just keep these 2 things in mind. So otherwise, it's pretty good. First thing that's annoying is all the items are set up in a big list of integers. In other words, if I want to add a new knife that's between knife and dagger, I can't. I have to it has to be 61. It has to be at the end of the list, unless I want to go through all the trouble of moving all of these down. This is true for this as well. This one thing isn't that bad. I mean, it's livable if you're ready for it. But what if I want to add a golden slime? I can't. I have to put it all the way down underneath the demon god. It ends up just being really messy. If you're OCD like me, that could be a problem. And if you want an example of how it should work, it should just be a big list of stuff that's in the game. So, like, if I want to add another duplicate the Daedric mace, there you go. I got a new mace. I could do whatever I want with this thing. I could change its value. I could change its graphic. Obviously, I want to rename it something other than duplicate. Okay. All right. So here's the final thing that sucks about RPG Maker. Okay. So in this case right here, I have a chest and I have a bunch of magic pots. I haven't quite figured out exactly in my mind what's the best way to deal with this. Somebody told me one time, well, why don't you just program a solution? Well, if I have to program, why don't I just use another engine? Okay, so it's dangerous. Take these with you. He's going to give you a potion and a sword. So, but right now I got, boom, treasure chest. Short sword was found. Okay. Now I want to walk up and I want to break one of these magic pots. Yay! I broke the fucking magic pot. Okay, so what about all these other pots? Okay, what about all the pots in like 250 other areas? There's no prefabbing system. It's each and every one of these is a unique object. And if I want to make a change to one of them, like I figure out that later on I want to add an explosion graphic to the magic all the different pots that are flipping all over the place. Good luck. I got to go through every single one of them manually. I want to do something a little bit different with this treasure chest, with the way treasure chests work in general. Good luck. That sucks. That sucks a lot. Now there are these things called common events, which will allow me to at least figure something out where as soon as it spawns, the object figures out what it is, and then it calls this common events. Of course, now the common events get hit by the same thing that was from before. If I add a common event, I can't like organize them. They're gonna end up being all over the place because they're all set up in a big integer list. Prefabbing is extremely important, and if this engine had just solves those two things, if it was possible for those two things to be solved, this engine would be infinitely better. Just for fucking around with making an RPG. It's still doable by all means, and who knows, maybe a new version is about to come out that solves these two problems. But whoever's working on this, those are your two big problems. Fix those first. Everything else is fine. Okay, so from this point, I guess I'm gonna like attempt to mess around with maybe getting one of these pots to call a common event. I don't know. I mean, okay, so copy event. Blink common. Yeah, it's already like. I have to give it a graphic. I mean, huh. I know that there's like a call common event thing that should be able to like set all of the behaviors of a, but I don't know. Get around this one thing, or maybe just bite the bullet. And I mean, I'm not making a very complicated game, right? Maybe it's not that big of a deal. I think it's a big deal because it's just common practice. It's one of Unity's strongest suits. It's one of the things that Unreal 4 was very clever to make sure that it copies from Unity. Is prefabbing and blueprints, being able to take a whole bunch of different objects and combine them into one thing. That's super important. And it's painful to work with anything that doesn't have that. So, alright. With that said, the next episodes will definitely be time-lapse 100%. Thank you for watching, and let's see some world space get actually built. I'm going to ignore these problems, and I'm going to push forward anyway.